This is Jonathan Ferguson, the Keeper of Firearms and Artillery at the Royal Armouries Museum in the UK, which houses a collection of thousands of iconic weapons from throughout history. And this week we're showing Jonathan more weapons from Fallout London.
Oh no. Now before I criticise this too much, I half like it actually. If it was done to a real gun, I'd be horrified, but it's not a real gun, so that's fine.
This is actually part 2 of Jonathan's breakdowns of the mod's weaponry, so be sure to check out part 1 if you missed it, and as always, let us know what other games or guns you'd like to see Jonathan break down in the comments section below. Also, we want to introduce a few Q&As into the episodes, so if you have any questions for Jonathan or the Expert Reacts team, leave them in the comments section and they may be answered on a future episode. Right, over to Jonathan.
That's very cool. Although immediately creating a slight issue in that the left-hand chamber that I'm looking at there has nothing preventing a cartridge from backing out under recoil. Any revolver design you care to look at will have something to prevent a cartridge just shooting out the back under recoil. That's a slight design flaw there. Easily fixed, by the way. Just extend that straight on the left side down. Anyway, I like the overall design. It looks like a 1897 trench shotgun combined with a revolver shotgun, nice and chunky, and of course with the bayonet of the trench gun as well. So-called trench gun, actually acquired for keeping prisoners from misbehaving. Trialed as a trench weapon, but not actually adopted.
Get up here, you bilge.
A much cooler take for me on the laser musket. I was always a little disappointed with the kind of crank-up laser musket that didn't feel very muskety. This feels very muskety. Well, more like a flintlock rifle, actually, looking at it. Slight issue there with the ramming that seems to happen in nearly all games that try to do black powder weapons. So the ramrod is shoved down the barrel, but nowhere near far enough to actually seat a bullet. That needs to go all the way down, unless there's some electric nonsense going on that I don't understand. But I'm guessing this is somehow black powder augmented by capacitors. Didn't see any... Oh, hang on. Is it just that it's electrically ignited?
The sense that I got, it's like an electromagnet propelling the munition. There is a little flint when you pour the powder in and pull the flint back.
Slightly weirdly shaped lock plate. The cock is maybe a bit slender. Not what you want to hear, really. Yeah, there's definitely powder going in there. And a sort of inadequate ramming. Again, not something you want to hear. We are priming the pan. That's the first time I've seen a pan visibly primed in a video game. But then we have a crazy energy weapon effect. So conceptually, I really like it. It's a vintage weapon that has been made into some sort of energy weapon. How we're loading this thing, I don't quite understand. We are, by the way, on the wharf next to the Tower of London, which is still home to part of our collection and several of my colleagues. And there used to be, and it would have been cool to recreate this, but they probably didn't know about it. There used to be a row of cannon along the wharf, looking very cool indeed, until they were all moved for some silly reason. Quite like to put them back, but it's not my site per se. If you do go to the Tower of London, we don't get any money, but it's important to keep the place in good order. And inside there is still a fantastic collection of arms and armor that are all ours. So please do visit if you're in London.
Yeah, the real one is a lot nicer than the Fallout London one. And it's not full of cannibals.
Well, I'm not saying... I can't rule out cannibals for sure.
That's the beef eater faction in Fallout London. They ran out of beef, so they all became cannibals, which is why they're attacking me.
Amazing.
Yeah, they say horrible things like, what a delicious looking neck. I'm like, stop this. this feels sacrilegious to a British person.
I don't know. They're all servicemen and women. I'm sure they'll see the funny side. They find out about this. Oh, yeah! All right. So far, the guns have been fairly realistic, except for the ones that are deliberately not realistic. This is supposed to be a Lewis gun. It says it's a Lewis gun. It looks like someone's fever dream version of a Lewis gun. Yeah, so it's not completely off. Yeah, we do have that tapered front to the barrel jacket. The reason this is so huge and heavy, by the way, is that this jacket conceals an aluminium radiator, and then a big thick steel barrel and a big thick steel piston. It's not a water jacket. There's no need for a fill plug on the top of it, but it's fairly far from the real thing, just in terms of the magazine arrangement. So we press the button that's inside the magazine, and the angle is unfavorable to me, but I've got it off. There we go. That's the pan magazine, empty with no rounds, but you need to attach that to something, notably a big spigot or boss, whatever you want to call it, that the magazine attaches to and rotates on. And there's just nothing there on this model. So the magazine is just sitting on a flat surface and by rights ought to just fall off. This whole arrangement here, which is quite important for actually rotating the magazine, that all needs to be there as well. This housing here contains a clock spring. Yes, that's right, a clock spring, which is your recoil spring. And I'm going to put that down because it's super heavy. So there are some key bits missing from the Lewis gun. It's kind of ironic to me that the service rifle is euphemistically called service rifle, but is a bang-on number 4 Mark 1. The Lewis gun is called a Lewis gun, but isn't. So a little bit surprising there.
Watering, darling.
Oh, okay. We've got a modified Lewis gun here. Very strange, especially when given energy weapon augmentation. I do like the casual frisbeeing of the magazine there. Like, we'll just pop that off with one hand and toss it into the middle distance. The grip is possibly based on this real-life handle on the real gun, which is mounted this way round because it's purely a carrying handle due to the extreme weight of this thing. It doesn't rotate, so it can't function as a sort of saw grip for hip firing. Well, I guess it could if you held it that way. And I'm sure someone did that. I think if you've got the strength to hip fire a Lewis gun, it's going to be fairly controllable because of the weight. However, you'd have to watch out for the rotation of the magazine, because if you impede that, it's going to stop working.
You must be bloody stupid if you can't hide from it.
Ah, very good. Very good. Webley, model 1913, self-loading pistol. That's looking really good, including the markings on the side there. If you check out our Royal Armouries channel, a few back now, we did cover the Webley self-loader. Very big, blocky looking thing, as you can see, but it feels blocky in the hand as well. Nice to see that in a video game. Don't think it's in any others. And since I've complained about it recently, I don't think we're getting much in the way of slow slide bolt syndrome here. They're all coming back and going forward with a fair bit of speed there. Oh no. Now, before I criticize this too much, I half like it actually. If it was done to a real gun, I'd be horrified, but it's not a real gun, so that's fine. The suppressor, we do have the small caliber Webley pocket auto. We do have 1 or 2 of those threaded for and provided with a suppressor for sneaky goings on in the Second World War. So that is, on the face of it, plausible enough, although they didn't do it with the 455 model. And a Scorpion submachine gun buttstock there, meaning that there's been some sort of holes drilled in the side of the frame, and an extended magazine, which is doable. I don't remember hearing of an extended magazine on one of these. They were used by the air services, or the Royal Naval Air Service anyway, but I don't think they did the extended magazine thing that they did with the Colt 1911s that they had. What's the fictional name? Wesley and...
Webster and Scones.
Webster and Scones. Brilliant.
I like that. That's the divide between you and me, scones and scones.
Yes. For those who are not aware, there is an ongoing argument in the UK about scone versus scone. The hand clipping through the buttstock isn't great, let's be honest. It does kind of show how implausible the buttstock idea on this is, in that you'd have a similar problem in real life. You wouldn't be able to grasp it. It needs to be fitted the other way up on the gun, and actually could be fitted the other way up. So I'm not sure why it isn't. Oh, good grief. Oh, that's painful. Oh, my eyes are bleeding. That's absolutely horrifying on a number of levels. For one thing, it appears to be firing from a closed bolt, which it ought not to. There are closed bolt Sterlings, I know, but they are semi-automatic. The rate of fire is not bad. That's about all I can say for this. Why is it so different? I don't know why they've changed it so much from the real Sterling. The magazine well is tiny, too short, and the proportions just don't look right. The shape of the weird snail drum magazine they've designed for it. I appreciate the creativity of a different mag, but it's an unusual shape. The tower's looking really good, by the way. That's what the inside of the Tower of London looks like. It's time for an emotional support weapon, Dave. Here is a real Sterling L2A3, and it fires like this. Now, granted, the stock is a weird, convoluted design. But it doesn't look like the one in the game. I just kind of hate it, I'm afraid. It's an odd one. It's like they haven't really referenced the Sterling at all to create this. The end cap at the back is quite similar to how it should look. Obviously, that's something you'll see a lot of as you're shooting in first person. But even the sling loop is like a D-ring on this model, whereas the real thing is just a normal shaped sling loop. Minor detail, of course, but it's completely different. Almost completely different. It does have the long curved cocking handle, obviously the ventilated tubular design. It's Sterling adjacent. Part of my horror is that it's been kind of apocalypsed up. So obviously it's got terrible replacement wooden grips and things wrapped around it and stuff of that nature. But I think as a Sterling, it could use some work. It's a Dardek. This is a real gun, as some of you might know. I think even that stripper clip loading system is real. I'm not sure what it's doing in the UK. I've never seen one in the flesh. We don't have one. I don't think any of the other collections here have one. We do have a couple of Trounds in the ammunition collection. Plastic case, triangular rounds, hence the name, marketing name. Another weird attempt to hybridize a revolver and a semi-automatic. Kind of, but not really. But more of a way to increase the capacity of a revolver. It still functions as a revolver, primarily. I must admit, it does look quite Fallouty as a design, so I can see why they've co-opted it for this. And there was a Dardek rifle as well. Well, a bit like the Gyrojet, a scaled-up version of the revolver. Essentially a sort of grip stock chassis system for the revolver action. Well, not quite. I believe it had a proper rifle barrel. It's based closely on the actual pistol. Looks even more like a Fallout gun, actually. Oh, cool. They've Dardek. That's very cool. I really like that. Have they included the gun purely to turn it into a Dalek gun?
Yeah, I did wonder if Dardek sounded like Dalek, and they were like, okay, we'll do the Dalek version and then go backwards and include the original.
It's great. The only thing is it's not shouting exterminate at the enemy. It has the little ear lights, or eyes, or whatever they're supposed to be, on top, and then the veins on the gun barrel. So that's good fun. Okay. So, redeeming themselves for that Sterling thing, we have here a very close Viper Mark 1, which is really just a Sten Mark 2 in a party dress. Turning it into a bullpup. No magazine fitted to this one, but hey, they've invented their own magazine for it anyway. Is it a good idea? Probably not. The Sten has enough feed issues as it is without giving it a drum magazine. I wouldn't recommend it. As much as I'm a champion of the Sten as a very important and impressive, extremely cheap yet functional design, you're pushing the envelope there. The design of this, by the way, was for a one-handed gun. That's why it's shaped like this. So it sits under the arm. Clamp it under your arm and you fire one-handed instinctually, looking where you're shooting. Frees up your other hand for grenades, dragging friendly soldiers behind you, whatever it is you're trying to do. And it floats. So it's designed for commandos.
That's actually sort of how Fallout London has implemented it. If you aim down sights, your character just tucks it in between his arm and his ribs.
Good. Someone's been watching some videos, I think. Now, the slight problem with it is that it was never actually... This is the only known prototype of the Mark 1 version. However, in fact, logically, depending on our timeline branches off, this might be the actual one that you use in the game, because someone has looted this collection in the post-apocalypse. Slightly horrifying thought. think we've seen this mod before, this weapon before.
Yeah, I believe it's the same one that's been added. So when we did the Fallout 4 mod episode, I think that was the mod that got added into the Fallout London package.
Yeah, I don't think it's changed. Correct me if I'm wrong, designer or anyone else, but it looks to me to be the same, i.e. very good, but with a few flaws. It's in 280 in the game, I believe.
So in the game, it's now in 303, or at least the version that I found.
Oh.
They've combined ammo pools basically to make it more natural to find ammo during gameplay potentially.
That blows my mind slightly because so we have this. This is the 280, one of the 280 prototypes. There are some differences with the model. The handguard is maybe the easiest to spot. The shape of this swell here is a bit different. Always a problem if you're modeling something just from a left and a right profile, you're going to miss the thickness, some of the shapes. And I think, if I'm looking at it correctly, there's been a slight misunderstanding of the receiver. So the main receiver is a steel forging. This is a walnut veneer, which is very British. But that is applied, that is glued on. So it's what, 3/4 of a millimeter, maybe even a whole millimeter thick. It's stuck on. It's not recessed into the metal, which is how it looks on certainly the model that I looked at. I did see that the front iron sight is flippable uppable for use, which is an emergency sight in case your optic gets damaged. We deliberately have this sight protector on back to front because in Malaya, where 2 of these rifles were trialed, they found it a lot quicker to get into the aim for snap shooting if they put this steel protector on backwards, which is fascinating. So given it doesn't harm the thing, I put one on backwards to represent that might have led to a permanent change to the design. Had this thing actually been permanently adopted, not just adopted for 4 months and then never manufactured. The only ones that exist are prototypes. The caliber thing is weird. So that's 280. So it's a relatively long and powerful cartridge for an intermediate cartridge. And then we went to not 303 because that's a rimmed round and that would be silly. We went to 7.62 NATO. Well, it wasn't called NATO then, but that's what it ended up. Trying to sort of standardize, compromise on the cartridge, but we'll still adopt our British service rifle. And that's where this diverges from Fallout London. Britain didn't get its own rifle, didn't get its own ammunition, but in Fallout World, it kept its previous ammunition, I guess, and it did get its new high-tech bullpup rifle thing. There are actually EM2s in big bore calibers. So the 7.62 NATO version, which is this, the X2 E1, and actually the handguard looks a bit more like it does in the game, I think. But they were never chambered for 303. Designing firearms for rimmed cartridges requires a design for a rimmed cartridge. It's harder to go back to rimmed having already designed it for rimless. Cocking handle flying back and forth is correct. The handle is attached to the piston, which made it very hot, which is why they put a special insulated grip on it. Got too hot to hold. The scope is incorrect. The actual scope is not a scope. It's a fixed power, 0 magnification optic with a vertical post with some ranging, tiny little ranging graduations on the top of it. There was a 3.5 power sniper scope for it, which is what this is closer to when you're actually using it. So there was an option there to have it as an upgrade and give you magnification, but have 0 magnification on the standard optic.
I feel like I've been fairly merciful, as if I remember correctly, the modifications allowed me to put a piece of Picatinny on it and an MBUS scope on top, which I think might have turned you very aggressive towards me, so I didn't want to risk that.
Yeah, that's for the best. But I'm happy that the EM2 has an afterlife in this. Thanks for watching the Guns of Fallout London. We really appreciate it, and I've been looking forward to this one for some time, and I will be getting on to playing it as soon as I can, having seen so much cool stuff there. As always, please do check out the Royal Armouries website and everything that you can find from that, the social media, the various sites you can visit. Also, if you can, check out History of Weapons and War, which is an app where you can find our videos, which you can see with ads on YouTube, and also various other weapon, firearms related content creators. So check out all of that if you'd like, but whatever you do, we'll see you back here on GameSpot next week.